I can't improve or look after my health. No, nothing. If I have, this is what I tell a lot of people. All these people doing traditional businesses and killing themselves for business and making a lot of money. And I tell them, look, I'll beat you. And they say, how? How would you beat me? I said, look, you're gonna work crazy until you're 50, and then you can't get out of your bed. And I know as a fact, I'll work till I'm 80. So I'm working 30 years extra than you because I'm going to have that health to work till that time. So naturally I will beat you because you can only work till 50, and I'll work because of my health. I'll work until 70, 80. So naturally I will beat you because I will have 30 extra years of time to live life plus make money as well. Okay, so first let's talk about money, because once you got money, you got a lot of time, so to do things that you want to do as opposed to what you have to do. So let's talk about money. And the goal of becoming financial freedom is one goal that everybody should set. Okay, and on that, first of all, I want to cover the benefits of becoming financially free, and this is what I heard from Mr. Jim Rohn. And the first benefit he talks about is having time. Okay, and why is it important to have time? Because once money no more is an objective for you, you don't have to spend time on the things that you have to do. A lot of people, they did a research, and over 80% people hate their job. They don't like going to the job. Well, why they have to go to the job? Just because you ask anybody, why are you doing this job? They say, yeah, I need to pay my bills. That's what everybody will say. Why you go to the job? I have to do, I have no other option. So they don't go to the job because they love the job, but they have to do the job and spend that active time in the job because they have to earn money. And once money no more is an objective for you, is no more a consideration for you, then you can spend a lot of time doing several other things in your life, spend time in other dimensions of life. Like, since I've been able to being financially free, thanks God, I've been able to play more cricket. I've been able to look after my health more. I've been able to spend, I give you an example. When I used to be a bank manager, every time I had to go for Friday prayers, I had to ask my manager that can I go. So that's not real freedom. You can be a manager, but you're still asking somebody to do your prayers. And when I was at my prayers, my mind was all the time thinking that I have to go back if I don't go back. So I was rushing through my prayers. So that's just one example. It doesn't matter, whether it's your religion, it's your family, it could be anything. If you got more time, you can do a lot more for everything that you want to do. Okay. Next is, it extends your reach. So if you become financially free, it extends your reach. Let me give you an example of what I mean by that. So firstly, what I mean by extending your reach, you can help others who need our help. They can't do a lot of things by themselves, but there's one thing in wanting to do something and being in a position to actually do that. Like, only, I love what he says, only from the position of strength we can help others, including financial strength. And again, it's my example again. My sister, my brother-in-law had an accident and he cannot work for many years. It's been over 10 years and they got 4 children. And when I used to work, as much as I wanted to help them, just because I didn't have money, I could not. I sincerely wanted to help them, but I hardly had any money left after, I had done everything. So I can't help them because I don't have enough for myself. How can I help them? Now, because I've got that extra money, not only, I can do things for myself, but for many, many years, every month I've been able to support them as well. So that's what money gives you, the options. Okay. Then, you should be able to do more for those who depend on you. And that's one of my best definition of success, is to be able to do more for the people who depend on you. Like, if my family depends on me, to be able to do more for them, if I'm able to do that, that means I'm successful. But if my children or somebody, they obviously they want something and I'm not able to provide for them, then that means, like, I was a manager, I had the title, I had a good suit, I was sitting in a nice office, but the money I was getting was stupid. And the title was great. I had a suit tie sitting in there as a big manager, but when my family wants something, I can't provide it. So I was just serving my ego as opposed to serving my family. So I don't want the title. I just want to be in a position where I can support and help my family and do more for my family. Next is, what you become. That's one of my favorite reasons of becoming financially free. Because becoming financially free is a great goal, not because of the money that you get, but actually the person that you become. And my biggest satisfaction in life is not all the money that I've got, but actually the person that I become. And because of the person that I become, not only within ACN, there are so many other things in life, and there are so many other businesses where it's literally the success principles I learned from ACN, I applied that in retail business, and what people can't achieve in like 10, 20 years, I achieved that in 1 year. Not because I was so smart, it was just I applied the exact success principles which I learned from ACN. I applied that into retail business. And I was talking to Oscar, and I was telling him I'm going to expand my retail business in Edinburgh. And I knew that Oscar is from Edinburgh. So that's the beauty, and I've been able to expand my business just because of the success principles and the teachings that I had from ACN. And most importantly, is the source of happiness, because I really want you guys to make note of this, and this is so important. True happiness is not contained in what you get, but it's contained in what you become. And why do people change when they get money and fame? A lot of you would have heard that. And my spiritual leader, Imam Ali, somebody asked him a question that when people become rich and they get fame, why do they change? And he answered that people don't change after they get money and fame, but their real self comes out. And he also reminds me a famous quote, money makes more of what you are. So if you're somebody who's money makes a good person better and a bad person worse. So money gives you options to express yourself more. And that's where you will see some people, when they don't have money, they're very nice and they're very good and all of that. All of a sudden they have the money, they have the position, and you kind of see their real colors. Some of you can relate. Okay. Now, how do you become financially free? And this is where I heard this quotation from one of the ASEAN leaders in my early days. And this is where if you sometimes you come across a very strong teaching and you're not sure about it, always check with the leader. Because this is what, and this is real story. This was my first year in ASEAN, become a regional director, made a lot of money. And then I heard this great leader, he told me, Taha, you don't become rich by how you earn the money, but you become rich by how you spend it. So look, there can be many understandings, but my crazy understanding was I have to spend a lot of money, because the top SVP has told me that I will become rich by how I spend the money. So I spent all of my money. I spent everything. I literally went broke. So spend more than that's what happens to a lot of people in ASEAN. They get the money and they don't know how to use the money. This is where I'm going to give you the next formula. I wish I had understand this quotation better. And I'll tell you in a minute who the leader was. And I wish I had asked him before I had done that mistake. But I just said I have to spend everything. So everything that I get as a regional director, all the bonuses I was spending, getting the car, getting the suits, and at the end of the year, I have nothing. And I said, he told me that you're going to become rich by spending. So I'm spending. And that senior vice president was Mr. Bash Bukhari. He came to, London for the national event. And, I remember there were like so many people. There were like thousands of people. And I was just a CQ there listening to him. And he said, you don't become rich by how you earn the money, but you become rich by how you spend it. So I just listened to it and said, I'm going to go out and I'm going to spend a lot of money. But the real interpretation of that is, you can earn 10,000 pounds, but if you spend 11,000 pounds, you still broke. It took me many years to understand, and thanks God I understood it. Otherwise, even today, I'll be spending all of it. So for that, this is the book. Thanks God I came across the book called The Richest Man in Babylon by George Clason. And the theme of this book is, he say, what you do with what you have is more important than what you have. And it's a simple formula. I'm going to try to give you the most important formula in this book, the crux of the book, literally on this slide. And if you apply that in your life, I don't care, what you do in ASEAN. And this is what my objective always is with my team and everybody that I come in contact with, is not just teach ACN, not just teach business, but actually give life skills, because that's what makes real leaders. And once their life is in order, ACN automatically comes in order. So that's what I always aim to do, which is add value in all aspects of your life. So if you apply this formula, this can really change your life. Okay. So the first formula for financial plan he gives is, you got to learn to live on 70% of the money you earn. So it's very simple. If you earn 10,000 pounds from ACN, you got to learn to live on 7,000 pounds. Now, in my case, because of my crazy understanding, I spent 11,000, so I was crazy. But you got to learn to live in 70%. Now, some of you might say, I can't live in 70%. I can hardly live in 100%. And, you might say, if I had more money, I'll have a better plan. But the reality is, if you had a better plan, you will have more money. So the reason you don't have more money is because the plan you've been following. So what you got to understand, the amount and the percentage does not matter, the plan matters. You might do, when I started with this, I could not do 70 10 10 10, which I'm going to give you the formula, because 10% should be spent on charity, 10% should be spent on active capital. What do I mean by active capital? Active capital means something you invest in which you're actively working, like ACN. So all the expenses you do for ACN, like trainings and books and everything, that's all is active capital. So the work you're doing, you improve your skills, or you say outside ACN, you have a different industry you're working in. So you spend your active capital into that and you earn money out of that. And 10% is passive capital. So that you put in a bank, you put in some stocks and shares, you put in some sort of investment. So that's what we call is your financial freedom pot. And this 10% is the money that you don't even see. Ideally, it should be that it comes in your account, and before you see it, it should go out. I used to have a regular standing order from my account, because look, you pay in the mobile phone company, you pay the TV company, you pay everybody. How about paying yourself? Why don't you pay yourself? Why don't you pay 10%? Like a direct debit goes out, you have the money or not, the direct debit goes out. Why don't you set up a standing order? And the standing order goes out. They say, the rich people save before they spend, and the poor people spend before they save. So you got to save before you spend. So look, what he gives in that book is 70 10 10 10. Now you might say, I can't, because of so many debts, I can't live in even 100%. Then you got to remember the percentage and the amounts don't matter, the plan matter. Your plan might start at 97% that you use to live, 1% for charity, 1% for active capital, and 1% for passive capital. And once you improve your situation, then it can become better. For me now, I don't need 70% of what I earn. What I earn, I need 10% of that to live. So my percentage is completely different now. But you have to start somewhere, and only you know what's right for you. And what you got to understand is, write this somewhere, you should never forget, is the amount does not matter, the plan matters. And if you get into the habit and you're disciplined to stick to the plan, over time these percentages will change. Okay. Now we come to the time management, and I call it the great equalizer. Why I say this, the great equalizer? Because a billionaire and a broke person both have got 24 hours. Everybody's got 24 hours. The person who is signing up 10 customers a day has got 24 hours, and somebody who's not signing up even one customer has got 24 hours. It really depends on what they're doing with that time. Okay. So I'm going to, first of all, address this problem that a lot of people have got, no time. How many of you have no time? And I used to be that, I never had time. Okay. How many of you heard somebody say, if I only had more time, I'll do this. If I only had more time. And if you're saying that, you can never have more time. Time is limited. It's only 24 hours in a day. You can't have 25 hours a day. You can't have 8 days in a week. You can't have, your time is limited. You can't have more time. And normally lack of time to me means lack of priorities, because one thing you got to understand is we can never get everything done. You will always have things that you cannot do. But what's important, what successful people have learned to do is successful people do the most important things first. And with this, when they are doing and they got their priorities right, they do the most important things because they know what they have to do and they start with that. Unfortunately, I did not have any priorities. Somebody will come and tell me do this, and I'll say, okay, yes, I'll do that. So this is where you got to understand that there are things that you cannot do. That's where you got to use your time smart. And this was a big difficult thing for me because I was always a yes person. Somebody comes to me, I'll just say yes. Can you do this for me? Yes. Can you help me with this? Yes. Can you do this for me? Yes. And I'm not saying for you to be selfish and you doing nothing and tell people, oh, I can't help you. But obviously, if you have something bigger in your life and you're going for that and you have prioritized your time and somebody comes in, I always tell people a practical example. When I have prioritized my time for ACN, and even if my children comes in, I have to tell them this is my ACN time. And it's really important, especially working from home. You can have so many disasters, especially when, being a husband, and I don't know, women might hate me for this. I'm sorry. I just have to share this with you. When you're at home, and I don't care what work you're doing, if ladies see you at home, they just want you to do something. My wife just says, you sitting here doing nothing, why don't you come and help me? You're this ASEAN and all of that, you're just coming here doing lecture, doing nothing. Why don't you come and help me? And it's really important to prioritize. So you got to prioritize your time with family, prioritize your time with ACN. So once you have the priorities, I tell her, look, I've planned this, I have to do this. Once I'm done, then I can come and help you. When my door is closed, my kids know that they're not allowed to come because that's my ACN time. And then I have my family time as well. Next, don't let your mouth overload your back. Because if you say yes to everything and later on you just trying to come out of so many things that you commit. I always believe in, I learned this from my line manager in banking world in Nationwide. She was a lady and she's really the example. I looked at her. She was 60 years old and she was like working like crazy the whole day. And I looked at her and I said, if I'm 60, I can't do what she's doing. So I better do something about it. But I learned, you learn from everybody. And she said, Tahir, always under promise and overachieve. If you have this in your life, which is under promise and overachieve, it's very easy for you to manage your time and everything. Next, don't confuse activity with productivity. A lot of people do that. Don't confuse the movement with achievement. A lot of people just like, because busy feels good. If you're busy and you just telling, I'm so busy, I'm doing this, I'm busy, I'm doing this, but if you're not getting no results, you're getting no productivity, sooner or later people around you, they're going to ask you, okay, you're so busy, but what are you achieving? What have you achieved in ASEAN? And especially your family. And this is my example. When I was being so busy spending time away from my family, I had to be questionable to my family. They're going to ask me, okay, you're spending all this time away from us, what's in it for me? My family asked me. So I had to tell them, okay, if we achieve this, if we achieve regional director and I have more money, that means I can spend more time. We can go on holidays together. So you got to get the support of your family. If you all the time busy spending your time away from the family and then they don't see any results, they don't see any productivity, sooner or later you're going to have problems. And people always ask, how much time should I give for this? How much time do I need? And the best advice is, again, from Jim Rohn. He says, reasonable time is enough time to achieve all of your goals, because you will never have enough time. If you want to do something and say, how much time do I need? You will need an eternity to do something. But if you put your mind, your heart and soul into it, reasonable time is enough to achieve all of your goals. And you might see yourself in this. Like I was initially into ACN, putting in a lot of hours but not getting a lot of results. I was working so many hours. I finished my nationwide job, and then I will work till like 12, 1, 2 o'clock, and still I was not getting results because I went to my mentor and said, I'm putting in so many hours, but I'm getting no results. And this is what he told me. He said, it's not about how many hours you put in, but it's about the work you put in those hours. So look, you got to understand, how long does it take for you to make 10 phone calls? Maybe 20 minutes. But how long would it take for you to think about making those 20 calls, or read books or train? You can read 100,000 books on calling, and you can be on training from Monday to Sunday, 12 to 12. But if you don't make that call, you're getting no results. Now, the problem is not with my training or anybody else who's training you. The problem is yourself, because you're not putting what you're learning into action. So all of this is great, training and all this is great, reading books, and I'm the biggest fan of, I've done this for last 7 years. But I learn less and practice more. And then I evaluate. I don't learn anything new until I've put the existing learning into practice. Because what will I do if I keep learning, and don't practice? So sometimes I stop learning just to put my existing learning into practice and then learn something new. But some people have got so many great ideas, but they do nothing about it. The ideas just get into their head, and their head becomes very big, and nothing else. Their bank account is still the same, their lifestyle is still the same, only their head has gone big. In their mind, they gone SVP, but in their back office, they're still, nothing. So this is where you got to get that SVP out of your head and bring that SVP into action. And that's how you become real SVP. I love this, this is majors and minors. You got to understand in whatever you do. I don't talk about ACN, but think about, getting fit. If you want to have good health. If you want to have good health, reading books on having a good health is minor work. You can read a lot of books on becoming fit, but then when you drink a 1.5 liter Coke, you can read any books. But if you're drinking 1.5 liter Coke, no book is helping you. And you may not read any book, but you run half an hour every day, you will become fit. So reading books is minor work. Thinking about running is minor work. Buying new trainers, my wife always buy the latest trainers, and I say, that's great, but now we need to run. It's great to buy the new trainers, and it's great to buy, all the new tracksuit and everything, but you got to run as well. So you got to understand the difference between majors and minors. What do you mean by that? Especially when we talk about ACN, if you're doing an important call, especially imagine you're talking to your prospect. I always tell people to do a little bit of pre-call. What do I mean by pre-call? In a pre-call, I always, just try to do a little bit of, research on that person. And that's from the banking world. Before we had to call anybody from our banking world, and banks have all the information about you. They know everything about you, how you spend money, how you earn money, and everything. And based on that, we used to do some research. Now, and we used to call that a pre-call. So I believe in ACN, you should have a pre-call as well. Always, I call it, the hot button. At least you should know the hot button of the person. Hot button means if you're talking to a father who's got children, probably the hot button for him is spending more time with his children. If you're talking to somebody who's young, single, and loves driving cars, probably his hot button is a brand new car. So at least when you call somebody, before that, you should know their hot button. You should know what is their biggest pain or biggest pleasure, their biggest disappointment or their biggest inspiration or desperation. You should know these things before you make a call. And now again, don't spend one day researching the person and then next day you call and that person don't even pick up the phone. So again, reasonable time, I always say like 1 minute to 5 minutes to do, bit of thinking in your mind, write down what you can think is how we can help that person, then make that call. And always make an agenda before important conversations. For example, if you're having a team meeting, it's never, I always say this, a meeting without an agenda is not a meeting. So if you have an agenda, you have the time, you can finish it. Richard Branson says, most of you know him, he says most meetings can be finished within 15 minutes. because everything important is covered in first 15 minutes and then is blah, 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 all the time waste. Don't major in minor things. So like I told you, if you major in becoming fit and active is reading books and reading all the blogs and learning about all the new diets, this is all minor work. But if you don't do any major work, which is actually running, then you're not going to get active and fit. Then minor time in ACN. These are the examples of minor time in ACN. So thinking about the prospect, thinking about making the list, thinking about making a call, thinking about of doing a presentation, evaluating the presentation after you've done it on a Zoom presentation, you evaluate the prospect, evaluate your performance, and all of that is okay, but it's minor work. What's major time? What is major work in ACN? The major work is what you do in the presence of the prospect, whether it's over the phone, it's over the Zoom, that's your major work. So at the end of every week, you should see, are you spending 90% of your time on minor work and only 10% on major work? If you're doing that, you are not being very productive. You are being busy. That's where you got to slowly increase your time doing the major work and reduce the time on minor work. And my personal tips, again, these are the tips which has helped me. These are very simple. Some of you already know it, but you have never practiced them. The difference between you and me is I practiced them for last 7 years. They're very simple. Every one of you can do it. Everybody on this call, the moment I teach you this, you can start doing it. So Oscar can do it, Anna can do it, both of you can do it, and everybody else on the call can do it as well. But the question is, can you do it for a sustained period of time to see the results in your life? First of all, I call it a 90 minutes jam session. What do I mean by 90 minutes jam session? Research shows that if you do something for 90 minutes non-stop, just one thing, and you focused on that, you can complete any task. And after 90 minutes, it's important for you to recover yourself as well, because our human capacity, we can focus on one thing for 90 minutes. We give it very hard. I do this 90 minutes jam sessions all the time. I do a 90 minutes, calling session. I sit down, and for those 90 minutes, all I'm doing is I'm just calling. I'm not doing nothing else. Nobody can stop me. Nobody can reach me. Nobody can give, no book, no training, no kids. Nobody can come between me and that calling jam session. I just sit down, and for 90 minutes, I'm just calling. I'm doing nothing else in the world. And I normally have, a timer in front of me, and you're going to see, you start this and have the stopwatch in front of you. Try to do it for 90 minutes. The first time I did it, I was just calling, and I'd done so many calls, and I looked at the time watch, and it's only 20 minutes. So, oh my God, just 20 minutes, 70 more minutes. But I was so focused, and trust me, I promise you guys, those of you, I don't know who's going to do it, those of you decide to do a calling jam session this week, the amount of results you're going to see in your ACN, you may not have seen it in last 1 year. Because it's so difficult for us to stay focused on one thing for 90 minutes, because there are so many distractions around us. Somebody calls us, we get an email, and normally, when you're getting focused on something, all of a sudden, if it's slightly difficult, you try to find something easier to do. And that's when, you are a very, I call it, you're active non-action. So you're taking action of making calls, and you find it a little bit difficult, you get some rejection over the phone from somebody, and all of a sudden you find something else which is easier, and you start doing that. The focus is to do 90 minutes just calls and do nothing else. And then every day sit down when you wake up and write down 5 things which are most important for that day. And when you have written them down, look at those 5 things and ask yourself a question, that if I had to go out of town, maybe a different city or a different country, what is the one thing that I will do before leaving? And then you start with that one thing and don't stop until you have finished that. And this is the best thing for me, probably the best advice Jim Rohn, I heard him saying was, don't finish the day until you have it finished. Every night I sit down, I see what I've done this day and I plan for the next day. Don't finish the week until you have it finished. So every week I sit down, I look at what I've done for the whole week, my top learnings, my top achievements, my top failures, and then I plan my next week. Don't finish the month until you have it finished. So at the actually today I have to do my monthly review because January has just finished. So I need to review the whole of January, and then based on my yearly goals, I'm going to set my monthly goals for the month of February. And based on my monthly goals, I'm going to set my weekly goals. And based on my weekly goals, I'm going to set my daily goals. Now those great days become great weeks become great months, and great months become great year, and great years become great life. And if you have a casual day becomes a casual week becomes a casual month becomes a casual year, and a casual year becomes a casual life. And I love what Jim Rohn says. He says casual people lead to casualty, and you don't want to end up there. Last thing, this probably is the most important thing I've learned about life. Say life is not just